If you've ever done any research into speedlights and flash heads, maybe you were thinking about buying one, you may have come across a GN number, which is the guide number. This guide number is basically the answer to a calculation by getting a good exposure and then taking the distance from the flash to the subject and multiplying this by the aperture. So the guide number equals distance times aperture. So let's say your flash has a guide number of 80. This means if your subject is 10 foot away from the flash and you set your aperture to f8, you will get a good exposure on your subject. This has nothing to do with ambient light, and it's just about the flashlight and that flash power. Now, if you had a second flash that came with a guide number of 40, keeping that distance the same at 10 foot, the aperture would have to be f4 to get a good exposure. From this, we can deduce that the flash with a guide number of 80 is more powerful than the flash with a guide number of 40. This is because at f8, you're using a much smaller aperture, so the flash needs to be more powerful to get the same amount of light through that smaller hole. So a flash with a higher guide number is more powerful than a flash with a lower guide number. Now, in the two examples I've given, you'd be forgiven for thinking that it was twice as powerful at GN80 compared to GN40. But if you've watched my inverse square law video, and if you know how the camera works, you'll know that your principal settings work on a logarithmic scale. This means that whenever the aperture changes through one stop, it doubles the amount of light that's let in when it's one stop bigger, and halves the amount of light when it's one stop smaller. So the difference between f8 and f4 is 2 stops, which is actually 4 times the amount of light. So the guide number isn't that straightforward. Now, if you want to learn a lot more about guide numbers, Gerald Undone has done a fantastic video on this and he goes into great detail. So if you want to watch that, click on the eye in the corner or the link in the description after watching this video. Now, with guide numbers, there are a few other issues as well. Different flash heads have different types of bulbs. Some speed lights zoom in and others don't. And also some zoom further than others as well. So there are a lot of variables that can affect the outcome and can make it seem like the flash is more powerful than it actually is. Also, if you can think of all of the ways you can manipulate the light, you can reflect it off surfaces, you can intensify it with a metal cone, and you can diffuse it with softboxes. And on top of all of that, different companies will measure it differently. If ISO is kept the same, it should be a true-ish representation of the actual power of the flash. But some companies measure it with the ISO set to 200 instead of 100, which is a little bit sneaky and it's a little bit misleading, and it will kind of give the impression that the flash is more powerful than it actually is. Companies also measure the Fresnel head zoomed all the way in if it is a variable zoom flash. So they're trying to get the number as high as possible for their given flash head to get the highest possible guide number in the specs. So guide numbers are a representation of how powerful the flash is. But as less companies are now supplying the guide number to start with, it does seem like it's becoming obsolete. However, as users, we do need an accurate way of telling us how powerful each flash is, whether it's a guide number, a watt-second measurement, or some other measurement. Then we could work out what strength the flash is and what we might buy as a second or a third flash, or even if we're buying the first flash. It is good to know how powerful that flash is. Now, if you've bought a flash recently, did you use any way of working out how powerful a flash is, or did you just watch a recommendation or a review on that flash? Let me know in the comments below. It'll be great to hear your thoughts. So if you like this and want to learn more, click on this video next. Or if you want to binge watch a load of these short videos, click down here for my photography glossary. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for weekly tutorials, videos and reviews on everything photography. I'll see you next time.